Another week of sports calls for another episode of The Extra Point, which starts right now. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. I'm your host, Griffin Barfield, and with me today are two brand new panelists making their debut on the show. We have Angelo Feliberti, and we have Grayson Mann, obviously one of the panelists of the Cover 2 podcast. And guys, really excited to have you guys here. Welcome to the show, and I'm really excited to see what you guys have to say when it comes to all the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. So why don't we just get right into it? And now, usually Friday Night Light's kind of, reference to high school sports, but we're talking college football. There is a game on Friday night at 9 p.m. between two top 20 teams in the college football world. It is the number 10 Utah Utes who will be traveling to Corvallis, Oregon to take on the number 19 Oregon State Beavers. Guys, who do you have in this one?
Ooh, this is a good one. I can't believe they had this one on Friday, too. That's kind of a fun one. Give me some content, 3-day weekend.
Who do you got, Grayson?
All right, I got 3 letters for you. DJU. Give me the Oregon State Beavers to get the home win. We don't know about the health of Cameron Rising as of right now. He's splitting reps with the current starting quarterback of Utah, who's played serviceable in Rising's absence. Even if Rising's at maybe 50-60% heading into this game, I think DJ and this Oregon State offense have a bounce back in which I think many learned Washington State's a heck of a college football team, and Cameron Ward as well. So give me Oregon State and a bounce back win.
Angelo?
So we're on the same page, I guess, here. Oregon State, baby, let's go. I think Utah is extremely talented on the defensive side, but like you said, Cam Rising, his health has been, here and there, not very stagnant, just like their offense. Jonah Ellis, he leads the NCAA in actual sacks, 5.5. But I just think Oregon State's offense is too much. One of the best run offenses in the league. I mean, not in the league, in the NCAA. And same with their offensive line, top 3, top 5. So I don't see how Oregon State loses this game, really.
Not too much debate here.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And I'm really excited to see how Oregon State and obviously DJU kind of bounces back in this situation, obviously losing to a tough Washington State team away. Now they're at home. Now they're hosting a top 10 team, and I'm really excited to see if they bounce back or not. But I guess we'll find out on Friday night. Next up, we are talking about our school right here. We have a noon game between our Clemson Tigers, who will be traveling up north to upstate New York, the Carrier Dome, to take on the undefeated Syracuse Orange. It's a tough game. Some may argue that it may be a trap game for Clemson. But who do you guys got in this one?
It's really the last 4 weeks for Clemson football have been eye-opening. For me, it's been routine execution, whether it's handoffs at the 5-yard line, false starts at the 1, where you have opportunities to score. I think Garrett Schrader and Syracuse have been pretty solid. This is the second year in a row where we face an undefeated Syracuse football team. This is really a watch-out game. I know that some fans are probably feeling pretty good after almost taking down Florida State. Give me the Tigers, but I do say, watch out. This is going to be, I'd say, a close physical football game. Give me Clemson 24-17.
Okay. All right, I got Clemson, of course. I got them 35-28. Syracuse, they have a top 10 offense and a top 15 defense right now, but they haven't really played any competition, to be honest.
What about Colgate, man? What about them?
Colgate, yeah, they're something. And then I feel like it's a must-win for Clemson as well because we're 0-2 in the ACC. So if we drop this game, that's really looking bad for us, for the conference, for the ACC championship, any of those games. It's not looking good if we drop this one.
Yeah, and I agree too. I think, especially with how close these Syracuse and Clemson games have always been over the years, I'm really excited to see a close game. And I think, honestly, that's probably what's going to happen. You're away from home. You're with an experienced quarterback in Garrett Schrader. But I guess we'll find out Saturday at noon, right? Moving on, we're going to be talking about the Big 12. We have the undefeated number 24 Kansas Jayhawks, not a basketball school, football school. They will be traveling to Austin, Texas to take on the number 3 team in the country in the Texas Longhorns. Now, an interesting game, but do you guys think Texas will come out on top, or will the Jayhawks pull off the upset?
I have the frowny face on my thing because I'm a big Kansas guy. The way that they've transformed their program, I think this is their second 3-0, 4-0 start. Back-to-back years, we're talking about undefeated teams in this slate for the extra point. But I think Texas is just going to be too much, especially at home. Quinn Ewers has been really, I think, refined as a passer this year. I think we saw some struggles last year in 2022. But I think Kansas, while they're a good story, they're certainly not in the same stratosphere as talent as the Longhorns. So I'm going to take Texas in a comfortable win.
And I'm going to take Texas as well. 38-14, comfortable win. Jayhawks have a great rushing offense, but I really just don't see them keeping up with this Texas offense or defense at this point. Quinn Ewers is like top 5 arguably in Heisman contention right now. I mean, there's nothing stopping them at this point, especially after beating Bama this earlier in the season. So,
I mean, most definitely, I think, beating Alabama at Alabama is, a statement in itself, but that game will be at 3:30, right after the Clemson-Syracuse game on ABC, so once again, we'll find out then, and I'm excited to see it. Next up, we are going to the SEC for another top 20 matchup. We have the number 13 LSU Tigers, who will be traveling to Oxford, Mississippi, to take on the Ole Miss Rebels, who are trying to bounce back from a loss, obviously, like we just talked about, to Alabama. So, guys, I think, a toss-up game, but who comes out on top in this one?
They say that some teams are going to be backed into a corner. They perform at their best. Give me Ole Miss in a win. I know this might be an unpopular pick with how they were looking last week, but I believe in Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin to get this bounce-back win. I haven't really seen what I expect out of LSU so far. We'll see, I think, this weekend what this making of this Tiger team is. But as of right now, I'm going to take Ole Miss. I think the environment's going to be loud. Everyone's going to be crazy. They didn't look great against Alabama, but I could see them it almost being a wake-up call saying, hey, we got another talented SEC West team coming in. We need to get this win to stay in the conference race.
And I got LSU.
First disagreement.
Yep, right. First disagreement. So LSU, I mean, they have Jaden Daniels. He's arguably a top 5 quarterback as well. They have, what's his name? Nabbers. He's 3rd in receiving yards for NCAA so far. So I'm not really worried about their offense, but what I am worried about is their defense, especially how it looked in that Florida State game. But I think it'll be close, but I think the Tigers will pull it out.
One of the better games of the weekend for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, and with a split house like this, it's the first 1-1. I'll take my take. Just because it's a home game, I will roll with the Rebels. I think they bounce back, especially with the Tigers' defense. But once again, I guess we'll find out on Saturday night. But I think the biggest game of this weekend is, and College Game Day will be there as well, and it does give us a bad taste in our throats. We're talking about Duke here, the number 17 team in the country, who will be hosting the number 11 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now, that game in itself was probably one of the best games of the year. I'm talking about, Notre Dame and Ohio State when they ran out the clock on a touchdown. Heartbreaker, especially, in South Bend. But are Notre Dame going to not shock the world, but are they going to shock the fans at Wallace Wade Stadium and beat Duke? What do you guys think?
I watched that game, and Griffin, I agree with you. That was one of the best 17-14 games I've ever seen. Defensive slugfest between Notre Dame and Ohio State. But the one thing that I came with very concerned was Notre Dame's ability to run the football. And I think from firsthand experience, I was at the Clemson-Duke game. The fans at Wallace Wade, they know how to get rowdy. And I think if Notre Dame becomes one-dimensional early, I could see the Duke Blue Devils and Riley Leonard getting an upset victory here, continuing a Cinderella season that they've had so far.
And I got Notre Dame and the Fighting Irish. I think that they could really do anything in that game. Sam Hartman is one of the best QBs in college football, in my opinion, right now. And they have Audric Estime leading the NCAA in rushing yards. So, I mean, I really don't see any standouts with Duke besides their defense. But, I mean, I think it'll be definitely a defensive game, but I think the Fighting Irish will come out on top, no doubt.
Once again, split house, and I love this game. It will be on my TV, but you know what? I'm gonna ride with Grayson here and go with the Duke Blue Devils. You know, if you keep I think if Notre Dame don't pull away early, you're gonna keep that Wallace Wade Stadium just edging. You know, you're gonna get them excited, and the crowd plays a huge role in tons of games. So I'm gonna roll with Duke there, but I wouldn't be surprised if I see the Notre Dame Fighting Irish winning that one. Next up, we're gonna move to our next segment of our show, Fill in the Blank. And we're just going to stick with college sports, and we're going to be talking about the Heisman. Now, we have been talking about a couple of Heisman candidates, Quinn Ewers, Sam Hartman, and obviously, you know, the front runners, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. So the fill in the blank today is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy, as of right now, is blank. Let's start with you, Angelo.
All right. Michael Penix is
thank
the
you.
Heisman right now. He leads about every statistic in the QB category, from passing touchdowns, passing yards, QBR. I think he's first or second in completion percentage with 70% over every single game so far. So, I mean, I don't really see how it's that close right now, especially with Washington being 7th in the country, too.
Yeah, I think Washington looks like one of the more complete college football teams right now. I got Michael Penix in my first category, but I wouldn't be surprised if another quarterback residing in the state of Washington is a Heisman finalist in New York. Cameron Ward of Washington State. I feel like the name should be more apparent. It was brought to my attention in a podcast, so I started watching his game. These two quarterbacks, I think, could potentially make the argument by the end of the year that they're both top 5
No doubt.
in the NCAA. But yeah, you got to give it to Penix. 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, unreal efficiency. Washington's rolling right now, and you could make the argument this is the best team in the Pac-12.
For sure.
Most definitely. Not only that, I think that they could be, you know, one of the top teams in the country. And honestly, I would not be surprised, you know, if they're one of the 4 teams that are called, you know, towards the end of the year that will make the college football playoff, because that's just how dynamic I think, you know, both teams are, for example. But, you know, if one thing's for sure, I mean, if you want to hear my point of view, I think it's going to be one of the quarterbacks in the Pac-12. I think, you know, in its last hurrah of a year, whether it be Caleb Williams, whether it be Penix, whether it be Ward. You know, I know Shedeur Sanders was one, but I never thought that he was. But, you know, who knows? Maybe he proves me wrong. But nevertheless, now just going to the whole thing as a whole when we're talking about college football is the best team. And honestly, I think that there is a 9 or 10 horse race when it comes to who the best team in college football is. There hasn't really been, you know, a top team. So that's my question to you guys. So the fill in the blank for this one is the best team in college football is blank.
I'm gonna go with Michigan right now. I know they haven't played anybody as of yet, but I think in terms of mistake-free football, the complete roster, I think J.J. McCarthy continues to take steps. Blake Corum is one of the best running backs in the nation. I look at teams like Georgia. I look at teams like Florida State, even Washington or USC. There are holes here and there that make me worried. USC's defense, Georgia, Carson Beck. Can he be the guy in a very tight situation, potentially down the road against an Alabama or an LSU or an Ole Miss in the SEC championship game? I'm a little worried about all these teams. So far, Michigan doesn't give me that much pause when I think about it. I don't have to hesitate when I think about, oh, this team's complete. Jim Harbaugh's coming back. We know he's got beef with the NCAA. He might be trying to stick it to them and potentially get Michigan on top of the national championship.
And I got the Bulldogs. So it was really between Georgia and Michigan. But J.J. McCarthy, I just don't really think he's that great. I mean, he threw 3 picks in the one game. I forget who it was against. But I mean, I just think Georgia's the most complete team right now. I mean, even though Carson Beck, he is getting used to things, but I think he's coming into his own. They got Brock Bowers, best tight end in the country, in my opinion. Their D-line is still amazing. They have a bunch of young players on that defensive line that are still growing every day. And I really just don't see anybody else really contending with them except Michigan. So I don't blame you for your pick at all.
It's going to be tough to count out Georgia, but we'll see as conference play continues to spice up down the road.
Most definitely, and I think, no matter how the rosters kind of line up, I think at the end of the day it comes to have you been there and the coaching, I think, and you've picked two great candidates with Kirby Smart in Georgia and Jim Harbaugh and Michigan, who is now back. So, maybe we see a different side of Michigan, but, I think we're going to find that soon enough. Next up, and this is some pretty breaking news. I had to change the script halfway through this, and we're talking about basketball for the first time this year, and Damian Lillard, who, was supposed to get traded to the Miami Heat. It was a thing going on since, the beginning of July. And he was just announced by Woj that he will now be traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in a 3-team trade with the Portland Trail Blazers and the Phoenix Suns. There's players going all over the place, but the main thing is that Damian Lillard will be a Milwaukee Buck. He'll be lining up with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So here's your prompt. Damian Lillard being traded to the Bucks means blank.
It's one of those loaded philosophical questions you got to think about. Let's think here.
There's a lot you can say about this, most definitely.
Okay, I think I've got. So, my thing is they're definitely a top 3 title contender, but I'm worried they might have lost an edge here with Drew Holiday. I think he was really the glue that held the Milwaukee Bucks together in this title run. I think he's been one of their more consistent pieces, especially when Giannis has injury problems. Middleton's proved not to be reliable. I think Damian Lillard brings an offensive element to the Bucks that we haven't seen in a long time. And what really I think Bucks fans wanted to see out of Chris Middleton in the later years of his career, we're going to be able to see Giannis not have to do too much. I remember watching playoff series, most notably against the Miami Heat, where Giannis is trying to do way too much, and you just have to go all in on that, and you take care of business. Clearly, this team wasn't good enough. We heard some rumblings that maybe Giannis wasn't very happy in Milwaukee in the offseason. I think this move keeps him happy for now. I don't know if they're better than the Celtics yet, or maybe potentially a gritty Miami Heat team, but I think the Bucks are certainly a top 3 contender in the East and maybe in the NBA.
I agree, they're a top 3 contender, and it opens up the dynamic of their offense. So, like you said, I mean, Giannis doesn't have to carry all the workload on offense when Chris Middleton or guys like that get hurt, the main scorers on the team. But I still think they also kept defense with keeping Brook Lopez on the team and the backup point guard, Javon Carter, who I really thought would have gotten dealt to the Suns because they really need a point guard. But I think they're still a top 2 contender. I'd say they're better. I'd say they're better than the Celtics maybe a little. But I would say that the Suns won the trade overall.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think you guys hit the nail right in the head. I think, Damian Lillard adds a different aspect to this team, obviously with Chris Middleton regressing, Giannis, obviously the injury is a question mark, but, I think Damian Lillard also provides a little bit of more hunger to the team, especially, he's never won a ring before, and this Bucks team won the whole NBA title, 2 years ago in the 2021 season. So, I'm excited to see him on this team. I'm excited to see that duo. So, we'll see what happens. Next up, we're going to be doing some NFL Pick'em. We have 4 games on this slate that we're going to be talking about, and the first one is going to be tomorrow night. We have the 2-1 Detroit Lions traveling to Lambeau Field for an NFC North matchup with the 2-1 Green Bay Packers. And this is just all-out exciting one. So, guys, who do you have in this one?
Packers.
Ooh.
So I think Jordan Love has really, really shown what he really is the past 4 weeks or so. I mean, he's played insane for the first 3 games, and then he led that comeback last week against the Saints they were down 11 with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, that shows his clutch gene right there. And their offense, Christian Watson should be back this week. Romeo Doubs had a really good week, really good past couple of weeks in place of Christian Watson. And the Lions defense, with guys like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson out, their safety. And I mean, it's usually a shootout with the Lions. So I think Jordan Love and the Packers can win that one.
I'm going to go with the biting kneecaps of the Detroit Lions on Thursday night. I think this is a Lions team that showed me something on Week 3 against the Falcons, a team that was averaging close to 24 points per game, really limited them to just 6 points. I think Jordan Love, well, he's a young quarterback and shown a lot of promise. I think there's still some holes in his game, missing some wide open throws here and there. I really like what I see so far as replacing Aaron Rodgers, but I think Jared Goff and this Lions team, they've come into Lambeau and beat the Packers before. It's a different attitude. It's a different edge. I think the Lions win this one comfortably.
Interesting. And all I will say about this game is that earlier this year, Dan Campbell beat a Kansas City Chiefs team who are the reigning champions in Arrowhead in Week 1 in the first game of the year. That's all I'll say. So he has the grit, he has the guts, and I'm very excited to see that one. Next up, we have an AFC East game that I think is just going to be absolute fireworks, and if not, most likely the shootout of this week. We have the 3-0 Miami Dolphins, who are coming off a 70-point game against the Denver Broncos, and they will be traveling to Buffalo to take on the 2-1 Buffalo Bills. So guys, in this game, two AFC juggernauts, potentially AFC contenders. Who comes out with the win in this one?
This one's tough.
I got the Dolphins in this one. I think it'll be a extremely close game. I'd say like 24-21, something like that. But the Dolphins, I mean, they just dropped 70 points last week. Like, how can you not love that? And the Bills' defense has actually really started to look amazing with 4 turnovers last game against the Commanders. So I think it'll be a real close game with the divisional rivalry, but I think Tua and the Dolphins can pull it out, especially with Jalen Waddle hopefully coming back. And, I mean, that's really all.
I'm just going to play contrarian here, and I'm going to take Buffalo in this game. You know, I think putting what the Dolphins have done, especially last week, 70 points is absolutely incredible. It's something I haven't seen before in my lifetime. They gave the Broncos the FCS treatment, but I do believe there's a strong sense of this team's going to have to come down to earth at some point. Not saying that this Dolphins team isn't amazing, one of the best teams in the NFL, but you come in, you mentioned turnovers with Buffalo. I think this is going to be the key, is creating pressure situations for Tua where it's not scripted, it's not comfortable. I don't think Tua really thrives necessarily well when he's uncomfortable and when Tyreek Hill is not open on a 20-yard streak where he can do the rest of it. Not try to be a Tua hater here on this show in my debut, but I think Josh Allen's finally woken up playing cleaner football. They finally found a running game. Their solution is going to be simple. Take care of the football, keep this offense off the field of the Dolphins. I'm going to take Buffalo winning this one in Buffalo. Tables, it's going to be a bad day to be a foldable table.
Two good takes, obviously, split house. I'll take the final vote. I like the Bills. I think, Josh Allen has cleaned himself up a little bit, has, relaxed like Sean McDermott in Week 1 was telling him just to, calm down. But nevertheless, once again, that's just going to be, a great game, and that will be on my TV on Sunday. Trust me on that. Next up, this is a game that probably won't be, and I put this game up just because I wanted to hear thoughts, because we have two of the worst teams in the NFL, in my honest opinion. And we have the 0-3 Denver Broncos, who just had 70 points scored on their defense, and they will be traveling to Soldier Field to take on the 0-3 Chicago Bears. And it's kind of like a stoppable force against an immovable object or something like that. That's how I put it, because it's just a battle of mid-teams. But who do you guys like in this one? Who's putting a win in their column?
So this is the first edition of the 2023 The Tank Bowl between the Broncos and the Bears. I'm going to take, oh goodness, it's like picking between throwing gasoline in an open fire or just like trying to step in glass barefoot. It's really the worst of both worlds here. I think given the look of Chicago right now, I don't really trust Justin Fields. In the same light, I don't really trust Russell Wilson either. But I do think with Denver, we've seen more positives in the dark cloud of negatives. Give me Denver to get a win on the road, simply because I think Russell Wilson at this point is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. But man, I'm really pulling teeth here to pick a team, because both of them have been just straight bad.
I got Broncos, let's ride, in a blowout. I just think the Bears are extremely bad. I mean, they didn't even have a defensive coordinator last week because he resigned or whatever happened with that. Justin Fields, he's been looking blind out there for some reason. The coaching isn't doing much to help him with not running any run plays, not giving the ball to the actual running back who they literally let David Montgomery go, and now Khalil Herbert's getting no touches, so it doesn't really make much sense to me. And Russell Wilson, like you said, I think he's the far better quarterback. I mean, he had around 300 yards last week. It's just that defense really, really, really did nothing against offense with the Dolphins. So I got the Broncos in a blowout. I don't think it'll be close, like 21-3.
The Tank Bowl, baby.
And like you said, this is most likely going to have implications on, the number one pick, a top pick. So, maybe if I'm Caleb Williams, I'm maybe watching this game maybe a little bit closer compared to, the other games. But, we'll see how that happens. Maybe even there's a tie for all I know, knowing these two teams.
Please.
But we'll find out sooner than later. But our last game that we'll be talking about is another interesting matchup, at least. And it is the 1-2 Los Angeles Rams traveling to Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the 2-1 Indianapolis Colts, who have a new head coach and had the number 4 pick in the draft with Anthony Richardson. Now, he might be out. I don't know. I think he is questionable right now going into Sunday. But no matter what, who do you guys got in this one?
All right, I'm going to take the Indianapolis Colts. Shane Steichen, it was really a W for former assistant Eagles coaches, or former Eagle assistant coaches with both Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen picking up W's on Sunday. But, man, going into Baltimore, where they're clearly, I think Baltimore was the better team, backup quarterback, they came with the game plan, they limited Gardner Minshew making any mistakes, controlled TOP, kept Lamar limited. This showed me that a Colts team, and I'm making a bold proclamation here, with Jacksonville, the way they look right now, they get Anthony Richardson back. I think this team could compete for the AFC South. I think the Colts have something special here.
I agree.
Give me the Colts over a Rams team that has really fallen apart in the last couple weeks.
I have the Colts as well. If Anthony Richardson is back for this week, I think the Colts will definitely win. But even with Gardner Minshew, I personally think he's the best backup quarterback in the league by far.
Absolutely.
And the Colts, as long as they blitz, they just need to blitz. They need to blitz exactly how they did against the Ravens. They need to do that against the Rams because we saw how bad the Rams' offensive line was against the Bengals. I mean, the defense tore them up. They could not get anything going passing-wise. And, I mean, if you don't got a line, I don't really see how you can get anything going running-wise either. So, yeah, I got the Colts in this one for sure.
Right, and, like you guys said, I think the Colts are just, an exciting team that could, go under the radar. Maybe and I know that they were, ever since, Andrew Luck retired. I think they've just been waiting for a quarterback, and now they have their guy in Anthony Richardson. You got Minshew at the backup. So, I'm excited to see what this team does. But, once again, that game will be at 1 o'clock on Sunday, so we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week with another panel, another pick'em, and we'll see you then.